Alright guys, welcome to Project GoodSpeed. I'm Jay, and on today's video, I'm going to be soundproofing the little hatchback and hopefully making it a little less noisy and a little more comfortable on the road. Let's get started. Now, when it comes to soundproofing your car, particularly in this one, I've noticed that the noises come from three different areas. One, the noise that the car makes from inside the car, and that whether that's stuff that's rattling or stuff that's just loose or anything that basically moves inside the car is going to be making some noise. And two, the next step is noises that come from the car, but not necessarily inside, whether that be some shocks, from going over potholes, your joints, your ball joints, any bushing that is located outside the car also attributes to making noise inside the car. And then three, most notably, are the noises coming from outside the car, from rocks hitting underneath the cabin and just hitting your undercarriage and basically rocks just pelting the underside. You hear all this stuff, and it gets very annoying and not so comfortable when you're inside the car. So all of these issues need to be addressed if you're going to soundproof your car. So this is what it sounds like at idle, and let me see if I can show you guys what we're at here. So yeah, so currently it's sitting at around 66 decibels, and that's just the ambient sound in here with the engine revving, the vibrations coming from the dash, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of it. So we just hit 94. This is me just trying to talk normally. Already I can feel that it's, I gotta really amplify my voice a little bit. Oh man, this is a narrow road. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Now I'm starting to yell. And the decibel meter is not even going up. Now I've showed you guys what it's like on trying to get on the highway and how loud it gets. Now I'm gonna show you what it sounds like on a messed up road. Because, let's be honest, that's basically what most of the roads here in California look like. So, we're gonna go ahead and drive down that thing and let's see how loud this little Civic gets. Wrong gear. Just for comparison, guys, I wanted to show you guys what it sounds like, what this road sounds like on a normal car. This is a Ford Fusion I'm driving here, stock everything. And as you can see, I don't really have to yell as much. You can hardly hear the loud bumps. If anything, the change in my change drawer is louder than the outside. But this is essentially what I want the Civic to sound like. Eventually, I say, because I'm not sure if by the end of this install, it will be. Now, in today's video, I'm mainly going to be addressing the noises that come from inside the car, from stuff rattling around or things that are loose within the car that I can, tighten up or just fix. And we're also going to be addressing the noises that come from outside the car, whether that is, rocks or stuff pelting the underside of your car. And we're going to do that by installing some Kilmat Sound Deadening Mats. Now, as you can see here, I've got 36 square feet of 80 mil and 50 square feet of 50 mil. And the reason I've got two different ones is honestly, they just sold out of this one and I had no choice but to buy the thicker one. And I also have these, what do you call these? They're just gaskets essentially that I will be using to hopefully tighten up certain stuff that is loose inside the car so that it's not rattling so loud. But in order to do any of that, I've got to remove the entire interior of the little Civic, and we can take a look at what we're working with inside. Two more minutes of this, and I'm bringing out the drill. Honda 1, J1. This isn't over. Oh, I hate that freaking stupid pin. So, after a lot of elbow grease, I finally managed to remove all the interior trim pieces and bolts and cleaned it all up. And after a couple hours, we are finally ready to actually start this project. So in order for the Kilmats to actually properly adhere to the surface inside the car, you want to clean it as best as you can, ideally with alcohol to remove any of the leftover dust or debris that's still on your chassis. So you get just the proper fitment in these Kilmats. So as I mentioned before, I have two different sizes. I have 80 mil and 50 mil. Now, ideally, I would use 80 mil on the entire car, but this was the same price as this, but it only provides 36 square feet, whereas this is 50 square feet. And if you're on a budget like me, I was kind of hoping that mixing and matching these different thickness would play out just fine. So we're gonna see. And then once I'm done installing the mats, I'm gonna go ahead and install some of these. They're just basically foam weather stripping, and essentially these are just meant to fill any gaps in any of the trim that would be vibrating without it. And hopefully by the time we're done, we can have the trim no longer vibrating and the sound deadening installed everywhere in the car to make it a nice, smooth, comfortable, and quiet ride. This is a long process, man. So it is now the next morning, and that is as far as I got, just the under carriage. I still have to do quarter panels, the doors, and the roof. So, just finished up. Decided to go with the 80 mil on the bottom and 50 mil along the edges. Now, ideally, I would have preferred to have gone 80 mil all the way around, but what can you do? They ran out, and it is expensive. 36 square feet of 80 mil on the bottom. Only managed to do the front side and all the back end over there, except for one of these seats. So I actually didn't have enough 80 mil for the whole bottom. The ceiling, I covered it up. I'm trying to get this over with already. And the ceiling is also 50 mil, just because I don't think I'm gonna be dealing with too much vibration coming from the top, other than maybe rain. But we'll worry about that later. We're in California, we rarely get rain, it's mostly fires. It still took way too long. This is not ideal, especially when you find spots to sit in. And the roller actually takes half the amount of time, placing the mat, cutting it up, and then making sure it sticks, only to have to roll on like very weird spots, or like inside the doors. Sometimes they won't roll all the way, so there's really not much I could do, like trying to roll stuff in this area. Really not possible, I can't get in there. There's a big regulator in the way, so keep that in mind that this is not a short thing. Okay, so everything is installed. I still haven't soundproofed this area just yet. You can tell it's still too bouncy. I bought these two just because I didn't know which one I might need. And then I also bought this one-sided foam, which is just to help seal any gaps in any of the trim. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to install this to make the Civic a little more soundproof. Maybe just go around the edges here to help insulate some of the sound. Okay, so after a couple tries in different locations, I basically found that this is most likely the best location to put this weather stripping, simply because the door has too much of a gap between the rubber and the frame here. It doesn't actually touch anything here, which is a little weird. But I've tried different areas and this should work fine. It should close right there, all along the edges. Everything is fine, nothing is sticking out. But now only time will tell if this is actually worth doing, or if it even works for that matter. That'll be it for the weather stripping. Now, the majority of the problems that arise from all the loud ruckus are coming from this loose glove compartment here. I don't know if you guys can see. Now, everything is bolted on and tightened, but it still just rattles constantly with the rumble of the engine. So I'm gonna see if I can find a location to put the foam strip to make it stop with the rattling. So it turns out that the little foam one is too thin for this gap. So I went ahead and used the rubber weather stripping, the one that I use on the doors, and I just placed them along that edge and some on the corners here to make the corners seal a little better. And then at this edge, and then right underneath there also. And now, even if it does vibrate, it's not hitting plastic and won't make noise because it's hitting that rubber, you know? So even if it moves, I think that'll do well. Now on to the dash. I'm not sure if this is gonna work because the seal around it is too narrow. I can't fit this small foam strips on the edges because then it won't close. So I'm gonna go ahead and just try to double it up in the back and hopefully that'll do, but I don't even think it'll clear it. So, all right, so it looks like it actually did work. I am surprised. I thought I was gonna rip off that little tape for sure, but I guess not. So I'm gonna move on to my deck here and just do the same thing around these edges because this one has a bigger gap, so I think the foam will work perfect on this one. Okay, so I put the seal around the deck, and this one is definitely not giving me a whole lot of confidence. So I put it on the little plastic edge here, and as you can see, it's very wobbly. So every time I try to push the deck in, this piece wants to come out. But I mean, it's making less noise than it did before, so that's great. I think we might be ready for a test drive. Let's go see how well the soundproofing, the weather stripping, and this rubber foam actually worked on minimizing the noise from the outside, because it can get very, very draining driving a car that's really loud, and that's not what I want for a daily. Okay, so we are officially done with modifying the Civic to try to make it as soundproof as I can. And here, sitting in the whip right now, I can tell the vibrations have stopped. You hear nothing coming from the glove box, nothing coming from here, nothing coming from the dash, other than, I think, well, just the steering wheel. But look, it can't be perfect all the time, all right? So let's just get on the road and we're gonna see just how well it actually sounds. It's still pretty loud. I don't think it did much. See, I was hoping that they would be gone completely and it would feel like a brand new car. You know how when you get a new car, you know, it's like the seals are perfect and it's really quiet and you can hardly even tell that the car is driving outside. But that's not the case here. Now, with that being said, it is an improvement. I'm not gonna lie. You do notice that I find myself not hearing it as much as I did before. I mean, even sitting down in the car with the engine running, let's see where we're at. So I'm not even braking 65. Now we're gonna get on the highway. We're gonna see how loud it is getting on the highway and then getting off. And I will also be driving it down some messed up roads just so you guys can get a feel of what you can expect if you just do the Mats. Okay, so this is gonna get a little confusing. I can't very well hold the camera and the decibel meter and shift all at the same time, as well as pay attention to the road. Oh my God, there's a car coming. It's still going. Okay. I mean, not as loud, really. This is me just trying to talk normally. Already I can feel that it's, I gotta really amplify my voice a little bit. I gotta say, yeah, it is a little better. Let's try this again. Oh shoot, no second. Boy, this is a lot harder. Okay. Now, all the loud noises really don't make much, really don't make much of a difference when I roll around with the window down, simply because there is no AC. But if you have AC, and if you roll around with the windows up all the time, I would recommend doing this as a slight improvement to make your car soundproof. Although it is not entirely soundproof. You can hear that. All those bumps, they're pretty loud. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about today's video. So I went ahead and I bought Kilmat's 50mm and 80mm sound deadening mats. They were relatively easy to install. I went ahead and I put 80mm on the floor and 50mm around the sides, as well as on the roof. Now, this was a lengthy process. I mean, rolling the mats alone is about half of the time that it takes you to do all of it. The other half is just measuring and trying to get some of the shapes right, because obviously not all of this is going to go onto the car. As you can see, I have some scraps here that need to be cut off, but the rolling was a little difficult because sometimes you have to roll over certain areas that this roller just won't go on. I guess if you have different sizes of rollers, it would probably help, but I only had the one. Now, another thing you guys might want to know is about the weight. Now, I got these two boxes. Obviously, I threw the other one away because I ran out of it, but these two boxes put together weighed around 35, almost 40 pounds. For me, I really wasn't too interested in it because this is a daily and I'm looking for comfort as opposed to speed. For the hatchback, the 80mm was not enough to cover the entire floor. I had to use scraps just to get the truck filled with 80mm, and one of the rear seats had to be done with 50mm. So out of the, I think it's 86 square feet that I had to work with of the Kilmat, I only have about 10 square feet left. So what is that, 76 square feet to do the entire car. And some spots probably could have used more, so, you know, keep that in mind. In terms of effectiveness, I mentioned earlier that there are several areas that need to be addressed that have to do with the sound that you hear inside the car. By just installing the Kilmat, I only reduced the vibrations attributed to the metal. What that means is the suspension and the ball joints and the tires also, anything that was attributed to that still made a noise. So when I went back on that messed up road, you can see here that the decibel meters are reading around the same range, and that's because the tires and the suspension are still experiencing the same force and shock of going over those speed bumps and potholes, that the sound deadening just has nothing to do with that. So what this means is that this essentially only addresses the sounds that are attributed to the vibrations in the metal, but you will still hear the initial thuds and the bumps if you going over any potholes or speed bumps or anything like that. Now, with that being said, I still think this is quite an improvement to the sounds that you hear inside the Honda. Sounds nice, solid, and sturdy, and doesn't vibrate as long. Although, just fixing up the dash with the foam and the rubber trim pieces, that is also quite an improvement. So I probably would have noticed how quiet it was by just doing that alone. So I eventually plan to do the suspension upgrades as well, you know, replacing the ball joints, getting new suspension, and just upgrading all the bushings around so I can make the ride a little less harsh on the road, because having to drive a daily car that's just loud and obnoxious really puts a toll on, you know, on when you're driving it. It's like a hassle, like a chore, and it should be smooth and comfortable and nice to enjoy the ride, you know? So to recap, this takes way too long. Took a couple days just to get this thing done. It is an improvement, but not a total fix to make your car soundproof. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I hope you found it informational or at least entertaining, you know. Until the next video, guys, take care and Godspeed.